Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do something that I have not done before, and that is make a tutorial type video of a project that I am making. So the last week of February, I was gifted this cake of yarn by some coworkers. It is Tea Cakes. It is the colorway Smoked Fruit. So I decided I wanted to make something out of this. And I wanted to do something similar to a project that I have done before. One of the projects that I worked on completing during my finishing all my whips projects was this set of sleeves. I was kind of surprised with how much I liked this idea. So I've been wanting to do something else like it again. And I decided that I would try using this yarn. This is a super bulky 6-weight yarn, whereas this was a 4-weight. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out with a different pattern and different weight yarn. So I'm going to kind of walk you through my process as I'm making this. It's not going to be a very specific, this is how you do it type tutorial. I plan to try to explain this project in a way that is adaptable, so you can do it with technically any weight yarn. You can make it to any length, size you want. So here we go. Here's my first attempt at a tutorial. All right, you're going to start with a single crochet row of a multiple of 4 plus 3. I have 31 stitches for mine to fit what I want out of this. So my plan is to have the width of this to be 12 to 13 inches. This is about 12 and a quarter. So you can make yours smaller or bigger, however you choose. The wider it is, the bigger opening of sleeve you will have. So now, next thing I'm going to do for the second row. Now for the second row, I'm going to do a tall chain, and then I'm going to put a double crochet into the first chain, and then you're going to chain 1. Alternatively, you could chain 4, as that would count as your double crochet plus chain 1. You're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then you'll go into this third stitch. You are going to put 3 double crochets into this stitch. Now chain 1. Skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and go into the 4th stitch. Three double crochets into that stitch. Again, chain 1, skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, go into the 4th stitch and do 3 double crochets. Sorry, this is probably not on screen very well. Chain, skip 3 double crochets into the 4th stitch. And you'll do that all of the way across until you get to the last 3 stitches. Why do I have 4? Oh, because I did not skip. Now when you get to the last 3 stitches, you're going to chain 1, skip 2 stitches, and double crochet into the last stitch. All right, so that is the second row. Now for your third row, again, we're going to do a tall chain and turn. Do 1 double crochet into the first stitch. Now you're going to do 2 double crochets into this chain space. This will complete the granny stitch cluster. Now you chain 1 and you're going to skip over these 3 double crochets and do 3 double crochets into the chain space. Come on. Chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain space. And you're going to do that all the way across until you get to the last chain space. All right, now we've come to our last chain space coming up here. So we have our chain 1. You're going to do 2 double crochets into this chain space here. And then to finish the cluster, you're going to put 1 double crochet into the first double crochet of your last round. So the last stitch of this row, put a double crochet. And that will complete the second row. So now you can see there's kind of alternating granny stitches. So now the next row is basically just going to be a repeat of row 2. Do your chain, double crochet into the first stitch. Now you're going to chain 1 and put 3 double crochets into the chain space. Chain 1 and then 3 double crochets into the next, and you're going to do that all the way across, and I will meet you when we get to this last chain space. All right, so now we have our 3 double crochets in our last chain space. Chain 1 and double crochet into the very last stitch on the row. So which would be the first double crochet of the row below. And that completes row 4. Now the rest of the pattern is basically just a repeat of row 3 and row 4, just alternating between those. So the next one would be 3, and the one after that you do 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, until you get to the length that you particularly want. I will come back and tell you what length I've decided to do mine. You can technically make it any length you want. All right, I have finished making the first panel. For me, it is measuring approximately 26 inches across from where I first started to where I ended. I did 39 rows total, including that first single crochet row. If you want yours more of a short sleeve look, you can do less. If you have longer arms than me, you can do more. I ended with a row 3 where I was doing the 3 double crochets on each end. So there are a couple ways that you could do this. You could technically keep going all of the way across until you get your full arm's length. I personally am choosing to go halfway and then do a second panel of the same length for the other side, so the stitches are going the same direction but down both arms. So I'm now going to make a second panel. Now, as I was making it, I realized I was going to need another cake, as this is all I have left of the first cake that I bought of this particular yarn. So I'm going to have to get a second cake to do the second panel. All right, the second panel is done. I made it the exact same way because the way cakes are, it's not exactly identical to this one, but that's okay. That's totally fine. I'm good with it. If you are more particular about color matching, then you will have to do some color control to get this to work. So now that I have both of my panels, I need to sew them together where I ended. Now I want to make sure the same side is facing out. So I'm going to choose the side that I finished my last row as my right side. If you choose the other side, that's fine. It really doesn't matter. Whichever side you want to be the right side is the right side. So I'm going to put these right sides together. Now remember, whichever side you deem to be right side is totally fine. On at least one panel, you're going to want to make sure you leave a plenty long end for sewing this edge together. Now, if you want to, you could do a slip stitch to sew this together, or just like I'm going to do. However it makes it feel secure is good. When I'm sewing, I kind of prefer to do kind of a zigzag kind of back and forth, or go under and then go to the other side, go under. Try to get this a little closer so you can see what exactly I'm doing. Make sure you catch every stitch as you go along so you have an even make sure you're working into every stitch on each side so that way it stays even. All right, so this is going to take a hot minute, so I will meet you when I get to the end. All right, we are to our last couple of stitches here. When I get to the end, I like to go back into, when I get to the end, I kind of like to go back around that last stitch a second time, just a little bit, just to really feel like it's secure. If you feel like it's secure enough without that, you do not have to do it. So now with this tail, you want to make sure this gets securely woven in because you do not want it coming out. My personal philosophy is to try and go back and forth a few different times in a couple different places to really make sure things are secure. However you like to secure your ends is totally fine. You don't have to do it exactly the way I do it. This is just the way I do it because I really like my tails to be very secure, because I have had in the past when I was not doing anywhere near as good a job of securing tails, having some tails come loose, and I hate it when my tails come loose, so I'm a little extra cautious about my tails. All right, now that is sewn together and you have one long piece. Next thing, we need to sew the edges of the sleeves together. So you're going to want to determine approximately how big of an opening you want for your sleeves. Again, I'm basing this pattern kind of off the concept of this project that I'd made. So I'm going to make my opening about 21 to 22 inches wide. One. So depending on you and your body size and shape, this may be a little different how big of an opening you need, but do what works. Do what is best for you and what fits you the best. One thing you can do to kind of check to see how wide of an opening you want, particularly for your set of sleeves, is put in a bunch of stitch markers to approximately where you think it should be and then try it on just to see how well it fits. So I'm going to put stitch markers at the approximate place where I think I'm going to stop sewing the sleeve sides together to leave the opening. And then I will put them together just to see how it fits on me. You want to make sure things are lined up well so it lays even and flat. So you're going to want to line up all of your rows so that they're right on top of each other. All right, so I've checked the size on myself and I like how it's fitting on me. So now we need to take and sew up this portion of the sleeve so it actually becomes a sleeve. All right, so you're going to take what yarn you have left and you're going to cut a decently long tail length to sew it together. My personal preference is just to make sure, because I want to err on the side of caution, use at least double the length of the area that you were wanting to sew, if not a little bit more. I'm going to do about 3, so I have plenty of length to do end weaving, or weaving in my ends. I'm going to start at the sleeve end so that way I can make slight adjustments when I get to the opening. I use basically the same method that I'd used before to sew together the two sides together. You want to make sure you leave a decently long end to sew that in at the end, because it's not secured to the end of a row like the tail that we use to sew the middle seam together. And then just doing the best you can to keep everything even as you go so you don't have an uneven sleeve. You're going to work all the way to where you want your opening to start. All right, and I'll meet you when I get to the end of where I'm going to be sewing this. All right, I have gotten to the approximate place where I want my opening to start. I am not going to weave in this end right away until after I've done the other side, as I want to make sure the opening is the right size for me, and I don't want to have to worry about taking this out to either add or take away some of the sewing. So I'm going to do the same thing that I just did on this side. Based on the amount I have left, I definitely want to do about 3 times the actual length that I will be sewing, because I don't have a lot of leftover yarn for weaving in the end, and I do want to make things are secure. So now do the exact same thing on the other side. All right, so I have gotten the sleeves to where pretty much where I want them. I'm just going to put like an extra stitch just at the very end because I want it just to be a little bit more closed, but not much. Please make sure that you are trying this on so you know exactly how you want it to fit for you. All right, now you just have to weave in all of those ends. Make sure the end that you use for sewing is secured well, because you do not want that coming out, because then your sleeve is just going to come apart. I do want to mention that I am doing this sewing with the right sides, or what I personally decided for me was going to be the right side together, so that hopefully the little sewing, the tail that as I'm weaving in is less noticeable on this part where I'm weaving it in. So basically all that's left is to sew in any ends. I had a little factory knot in there, which I cut because I don't like factory knots, so I redid that. You're gonna wanna get all of your ends sewn in and all of the sewing ends well secured so that they do not come loose during wearing. And then if you want, you can block it. I probably will block it just to give it a little extra finishing touches, so that way everything lays nice. But I will go ahead and finish these tails and then give you a final reveal. All right, so here are my final thoughts on the granny sleeves that I made. I do overall really like how they turned out. They fit pretty good on me. Just remember, if you need the sleeves longer or shorter, you add rows, take away rows. If you want your sleeves bigger around or smaller, I would not recommend doing it smaller than this width personally, just because of how it fits on you. Maybe it works better for you. I did end up having to get a second cake to finish this. It took basically all of a cake to do one side. So this ball here is what I have left from one cake, and this is what I have left from the other. So there's not a lot left. So I did use basically both of these cakes. I really now want to think about doing another one like this, using a lighter yarn, maybe doing like a short sleeve version. Back up on my wall, I've got a bunch of yarn. I actually got it for free from somebody. Maybe there's some lighter weight yarn that I could use to make something like that, or maybe with some of like the lacy yarn that I have, I could try and make like a really lacy version of it. I have quite a few ideas running through my head about how to take this, basically the same pattern, and tweak it with different yarn weights, different sleeve lengths, And I just feel like could be a very fun, versatile pattern for me to play around with now that I have it figured out. But I do think I like how they turned out. It's nice, chunky, extra partial layer for cold winter months. That is it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video or liked this pattern, hit the like button. If you want to keep track of what I'm up to in my crafting journey as I chronicle my way through all of these different projects that I'm doing, feel free to hit the subscribe button. But until next time, God bless.